Welcome. Okay, hi everybody. This is Hina again with part 3 of the short series I wanted to do for Love, Peace, Harmony. Can One Song Really Save the World? Love, Peace, Harmony is a divine soul song that Master Shah received in the Muir Woods in California on September 10th, 2005. And basically, this song has such high frequency and vibration that essentially what it does, it kind of starts clearing our environment of all the lower frequency and vibration. In part one, I had said that because I'm an eye specialist, I see things, literally, I see things differently than the normal person because of my background, everything I've learned in my school through optics and science. It was heavily based on medical science and optics. So I learned that everything's a wave or a vibration, including what our physical eyes can see. So everything our physical eyes can see is actually a wavelength of a certain frequency. The visible spectrum is 400 to 700 nanometers, and it hits our eyes, and the information is processed in our eye, sent to our brain, where an image then is perceived. So just with that knowledge of my profession and what I do every day, even using optical instruments, we use lenses and we look at really tiny things like microscopes, but I use a microscope to see the eye. Things that we can't normally see, I can see. So I can see using my instruments and special lenses. I can see in the back part of their eye, I can see blood, I can see blood vessels, I can see the tissue, I can see the retina, I can see the lens, I can see the vitreous, I can see tons of things. I don't have to get into too much detail, but I can see things that normally we as human beings just can't see without those special instruments. So my instruments that I use are specially attuned to see through certain media and give me an image, which then this instrument, me, my eye, then is attuned to receive that image, send it to my brain, and perceive in my consciousness, perceive that information, and tells me what I need to know to diagnose my patient, whether they're okay, whether they have a disease. And when I'm doing exam for glasses, then I'm actually changing the lenses in front of their eyes, and it's bending the light, the wavelength, so it falls on the back of their retina to provide their brain a clear image. So basically, everything I do in my profession is largely based on this understanding that everything's a wave, everything's a wavelength. And with that, if it's a wave, it's going to have a vibration because it's just not one huge wave to land a time. It oscillates, it goes back and forth. So from my understanding, everything is a vibration. So including our atoms. In part one, I said I used a hydrogen atom, which is a basic atom, only has one proton and one neutron on the orbit, on the in the, now they say electron cloud, but orbit, and and the electron can move anywhere in this specific electron cloud. And with that, each movement, this and that, like then it also vibrates. Our hearts have vibration, our brains, our brain patterns are measured, our heart patterns on an ECG are measured. Also in part one, I said that now Harvard and other universities are studying meditators to see how do they stay in a brain state, a deep state, being awake and still processing all this information. And because they're in that deep state, because they access that length of wave, they process and they get a lot of information. Then there's also the study that says normal human beings use less than 10% of our entire brain cells. So there's a lot of science out there that that we're still discovering. One of the other things that I pointed out last time, which I want to recap before I take the next step forward, is that humanity right now in the electromagnetic spectrum is measured with the instruments we have at our disposal currently. So like just say this is our, so currently, let's just say like this is the range that we can measure from here to here. But then as our instruments get more sophisticated, as they get a little bit more complicated, we can measure even shorter wavelengths or higher frequencies, and longer wavelengths or lesser frequencies, because they're inversely related. Wavelength and frequency are inversely related. So as humanity and our evolution of technology and our instruments and our machines expand the measuring capabilities, we can actually extend what we can measure more than what, because this is just what we know right now. But as our instruments get more and more complicated and sophisticated, we will be able to expand what we can measure. And in my last video, I did say that just because right now we don't have the scientific machinery or equipment to measure these extra wavelengths, doesn't mean that they don't exist. It only means that we right now do not have the means to measure it. And with the Love, Peace, Harmony song, or Master Shah's voice, with the tune, with the rhythm that he received, just because right now we can't physically put a number or see exactly how it works, doesn't mean it doesn't work. So in science, if we have a hypothesis, we do an experiment and we test it out. So I would encourage all of you to start singing Love, Peace, and Harmony for 10-15 minutes and see how you feel afterwards. Experiment with yourself. See for yourself how you feel, because Love, Peace, and Harmony, the tune, the word, the message, they are high frequency and high vibration. And when you are singing it, you're reverberating inside, but you're also sending the message outside, and slowly you're clearing even the space outside. In my part 2 video, I did say that even though this is space for us and it's empty, like I can move my hand freely, it's not really empty space. My physical hand is actually moving physical particles in the air, which are there. We just can't see it with this instrument, our 3D eyeball. My hand is going through media of air, of oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, and little bits of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, but it's going through, it's hitting the particles to make the movement. It's not that it's just there's nothing here. It is my hand is hitting these particles and going through them, because that's the quality of these molecules. But even these molecules that I can't see, I can't touch, I can't really feel, even these molecules in their world have a lot more empty space than what they envelop. So I think I read somewhere a good comparison is the size of an atom compared to its empty space is a football field, a football stadium. And just picture a football stadium and like an orange in the middle on the 0 yard line. I don't know what it's called. I'm not a big football person, American football person. I think it's the zero, I don't know, whatever's the middle of the football field. You take an orange and you put it in the middle of that stadium, and that orange is the amount of matter in that atom, and the stadium is the orbit of the electrons. So it's that big, and that small is the matter. So we have a lot more space than what we think we do in us and outside of us, even outside of Mother Earth. So so space is not empty. I think that's what I was saying last week about and quantum physics says the same thing. So everything has vibration and frequency. I also, in part 2, I did a small experiment, which is Professor Emoto's Messages in Water. That's his book, where he would expose water molecules to music, different types of music, like happy music, nice music, and then not so like rock music, or I don't know what type of music, but it wasn't pleasant. And then he'd quickly freeze the water molecules, the crystals, and take pictures. And the crystals that were exposed to the nicer music, the high vibration music, was a lot more beautiful and organized. It had an organized shape to it, versus the other water molecules that were exposed to angry music or hateful music were just kind of like splattery. They weren't pleasant to look at. And I said, try this experiment yourself at home, cooked rice, some water, and write positive messages on one jar, negative messages on the other, and a third jar, ignore it. So this, for me, I did this 9 days ago. So for my love, peace, and harmony jar, basically there's nothing happening, not much. There's no organisms or anything growing in there. It's just fermenting, but there's nothing growing like that's gross or anything. And then I said I wouldn't do the hateful or angry jar because you have to like yell angry words and hateful words to it, and I don't want to do that. So I did an ignore jar, which has absolutely no labels. And in this one, I don't know if you can tell, but there's like mold growing right now, and kind of gross stuff. Not that, and nothing's gross, but there's some growth in there that's not very pleasant. And in 9 more days, I'll check again, because when I did it a few years ago, it was actually like dark black mold that started growing in the hateful jar, or the ignored jar. So we'll check that again. So so today I wanted to focus on critical mass and what that means. Oh, no, I wanted to focus on why 1.5 billion was the magic number. And the answer is critical mass. Now, what critical mass is, it's a nuclear physics term that says once a reaction is started, it reaches a certain point where no external stimuli needs to be added in. It just continues on its own. So after a certain point, nothing external needs to continue it. The reaction will continue on its own. Now, different types of areas have adopted this term critical mass. They now use it in business or economics, where a company no longer needs external input of money and it starts just holding on its own. It starts standing on its 2 feet. It doesn't need extra money put in to sustain it. It's sustaining itself. Psychologists use it, and it's the way psychologists use it is kind of when enough group of people believe something is true, then in general the population will believe it's true. Not that that is true, because that's a big difference. Something doesn't have to be true for a mass majority of people to believe it's true. It could be not true, but a lot of people believe it. So that's a really key difference. So I'm going to stick with the nuclear physics definition of it, where it originated. critical mass is the amount, is a point when no other external energy needs to be put in for a reaction to sustain itself. So the United Nations, they projected, and this is just my theory and what I receive intuitively when I'm meditating and when I have insights, and I just put all the knowledge and my education and my background, I put it all together to figure things out, basically. So, and that's the beauty of being a student of Master Sha, because being a student of his, I get, a lot of us get to grow a lot faster. You grow a lot faster with the teacher. So let's say this is the population growth curve for the past approximately 200 years. And you can see like it started really low because we didn't have healthcare as we do now, the medications, the hygiene. We had a lot of like food issues. There was a lot of issues back just 200 years ago. So as technology grew, we are now healthier, relatively healthier. We have medications, we're living longer. So the population actually grew pretty quickly. So the United Nations, according to their figures, there's always going to be a range. There's going to be a high side and a low side, because the low side is taking into account the mortality rate, if any diseases come out, situations. They all have computational analysis where they figure these things out. So there's a range, but the average so far that's projected for by 2030, this is the UN saying this, is they approximate it to be 8.5 billion. Right now we have 7.8 billion, 2020. So for me, 1.5 out of 8.5 billion is about 17%. Now that's if this number turns out to be accurate. We're still 10 years away. So a lot of different things can happen. So for me, from what I understand, 1.5 billion is the goal, because enough of the human population will be singing this song, thinking about this song, embodying this song, having that positive message, having that positive vibration and frequency in us and around us, where we make enough of an impact where it will spread to all of humanity, the rest of the 7 billion that's not singing or not exposed directly exposed to the love, peace, harmony song. It just happens. It just happens in the air, where enough of humanity's consciousness gets to a certain level. And this song, with all the empowerments that Master Sha has made this song really powerful. And it seems simple, and it is simple, but a lot of the times in life, the most simple things are actually the most profound and the most powerful. That's why in this series, I'm trying to take complicated scientific concepts and really make it really simple, because these things are true. The science is there. I'm just oversimplifying it and making it easy to understand and easy to swallow, basically. But 1.5 billion is the goal, because that'll be the amount where the tide will turn, the consciousness of humanity as one, as a collective consciousness, then will start thinking on a higher vibration, on a higher scale. Hopefully there'll be more if we reach that number, there'll be more love, peace, and harmony. There will be more unity. And that's actually what we want. So we can do a lot of physical things to make the world a better place. 100% continue doing the recycling, the solar power, the volunteering, the cooking, feeding the poor, or providing them water, continue doing the physical things 100%. But it all starts from a thought. It all starts from an idea. And thoughts are also vibrations and wavelengths. So when we are in an environment that is naturally conducive to high vibrational, pure, cleaner thoughts, then a lot of the ideas that will come to us, or a lot of our thoughts basically, will also match that higher frequency, that higher ideal, the higher purity. So it's really important to clear our spaces, basically, clear our environment. Last week, I had also said, I just touched briefly upon a lot of what we learn, a lot of what we digest comes through our subconscious. And I said, I'm sure you guys already know that, but just in case, let me just highlight that one last thing. Psychologists, which is accepted as a science. A few years ago, I know the scientific community were kind of touch and go with calling it a science. They were saying it's psychology is more like philosophy and all these different things, but now it's accepted that there is a scientific basis to it. So like an iceberg, like the one that sank the Titanic, which the iceberg didn't sink the Titanic, it was just people not paying attention. The iceberg was just there. Okay, so like an iceberg, we can only see 10% above the ocean level, the ocean line. So 90%, I think they say 90% or maybe 85%, but I'm getting 90% is below the ocean line, where we can't see below it, especially for like on a boat. So so human consciousness, 10% is active consciousness. It's alertness, it's conscious consciousness. Like we're actively learning ABC or the math or science or the Love, Peace, Harmony song. We're focused attention in learning something. This is our intention to learn this. So we're focusing on that. But 90% of our information is actually through our subconscious. And our subconscious, another way to understand subconscious, they say it's below consciousness. So it's kind of the times when you get in your car and your mind just goes somewhere and you're just thinking, you're ruminating on something, but you're not really paying attention to the road. But you arrive home and you can't even remember like the last 20 minutes or the drive home. A lot of us have had that experience. Or sometimes when we're cooking and we've cooked something so many times, our mind isn't consciously paying attention to what we're doing. We're just cooking, but our mind's somewhere else. And that's kind of like on autopilot. A lot of our terms or slang indicate how prevalent our subconscious is in our lives. So our subconscious mind takes over because it knows what to do. And it knows what to do because we've practiced it so much. There's actually physical grooves in our brain that get stronger and stronger the more we do a repeated action. The grooves actually get deeper. And that's why in neurology, they have a saying, neurons that fire together, wire together. Because the more we do a repeated action or thought, they get stronger. The connectivity between them gets stronger and stronger, where it just becomes automatic then. Just like driving. We don't think about driving anymore. We just know what to do. Or all of a sudden we're home and it's, how did I get home? I don't even remember the last 20 minutes of my drive. So a lot of our information is coming to us subconsciously also. It's in the billboards when we're driving, or when we're listening to the radio, or when we're watching TV, or we see a commercial or a Facebook ad, or just, it's coming to us from everywhere. And our brains cannot take in all of this information. We don't have the capacity to directly focus on every single bit of information that's coming to us. So we can focus on about 10%, and rest of it gets stored in our subconscious. It gets stored in our subconscious, and a way that we can connect to our subconscious, or we know what's in our storage of subconscious, is actually in our subconscious, which is 90%, is actually how you feel, our feelings. That is how you know what you are storing majority in your subconscious, is actually feelings. Sometimes, I mean, this can also be thoughts when we're not really controlling our mind and we're just thinking about whatever. But feelings is the key to know what we're mostly storing in our subconscious. When we're feeling sad, or when we're angry, or when we're feeling happy, I can say those words and I can imagine feeling that way. But each and every single time, and you try it too, imagine feeling happy. All of a sudden, I will feel my heart happy, space, smiling, my heart smiling. And if I say angry, all of a sudden, I feel a contraction in my heart. Angry, hate, I feel an aversion, like it's not a comfortable feeling. And you know when you're angry, how you feel, and when you're happy, how you feel. When you're happy, most people will feel expansive, that they can hold and love almost everyone. When you're happy, if someone does something to irritate you, it does, like normally would irritate you. If you're happy, you just let it slide, it doesn't bother you. But if you're in a bad mood and something that doesn't really normally irritate you and somebody does it, it's like the reaction is disproportionate to your normal feeling line. So subconscious, our subconscious stores a lot of information. That's also why a lot of us will play the Love, Peace, Harmony song, which I showed you last time, because I have like a little player, and the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation gives these, they give CDs, and you can just download the app. That's the easiest thing. Download the app and just play it in the background. Play it in the background 24/7 if you can. It can even be a low volume, because what we're utilizing is we're kind of using the subconsciousness to absorb this information, this high frequency and vibration of positive information. And we're like a sponge. Our subconscious is kind of like a sponge. And then when we absorb it, we can then offer it to other people in our everyday life. We can embody it and we can offer it. And if that type of message is constantly running in the back of our mind, because of the high vibration, the words, like with this jar, there's no organisms growing here, no mold, no fungus. High vibrations, we're actually clearing our individual spaces inside our body, outside our body, and when we meet other people, we're increasing our frequency and vibration to a higher, more finer tuned frequency and vibration. And if enough of us do this consistently, the whole tide of humanity's consciousness will change, because at this point, humanity's consciousness is sick. Soon after the pandemic started, a lot of news reports said because everyone was confined to their home, there was a surge of domestic violence. There was issues coming up left and right. The economy suffered. There's a lot of things happening in humanity, and I don't need to point it out. You already know there is. And Master Shah's Love, Peace, Harmony song is a tool, a very simple but sophisticated tool, because of the frequency and vibration he embeds in this song, to clear our environment, to clear our atmosphere. And then we can actively be part of this chain reaction to spread it to all of Mother Earth, to all of humanity, and even beyond. Because whenever we speak or whatever we think, it's a wave and it extends even past Mother Earth. It keeps going. It doesn't ever just stop. It keeps going. And that's science. Okay, so thank you so much. This was my part of my last 3-part series, part 3. So 1.5 billion is the magic number. Please spread the message, spread love, peace, and harmony. And again, I will put the links on the comment section after this video. So I thank you so much for giving me your time. I hope I explained things in a more clear, concise way. And please be part of our mission to spread love, peace, and harmony for humanity. It's a great message. And I thank you for your time. Okay, bye.